Today we'll be looking at media and elections in Uganda. What are the challenges and opportunities? Well, we know the traditional roles of the media, which includes information, entertainment, to mention but a few. But when it comes into the context of elections, there are so many other things that the media is expected to do, including agenda setting, holding accountable those that are contesting for public office, but also informing members of the public so that they can be able to make an informed choice. Each time we go for elections, certain things actually begin occurring. In some places we've heard about censorship, where some media houses are told not to publish certain things. We have heard about attacks against the front soldiers, that's the journalists who go to the field, especially in areas where there are public rallies. We have also heard about so many other things that deter the media from actively conducting its work. We have also heard about the ongoing debate concerning online publications, including social media and YouTube streaming channels, among others. Towards the 2021 general elections, the government of Uganda took a drastic decision and limited the access to Facebook. There were issues around there, but as we speak now, you cannot access Facebook unless you have a VPN system. So with all this discussion as we prepare not only for the Kawempe North by-election, but also the 2026 general elections, what are the expectations when it comes to media and elections in our country? Two guests in studio today to discuss these issues. Mr. Moses Watasa, Commissioner, Communication and Dissemination, Minister of ICT, Information and National Guidance. It's always a pleasure to have you, Mr. Watasa, on Spectrum. Thank you very much for joining us.
Thank you so much, Ndugu, for hosting me again. I've actually been wondering why you don't want to host me. If you have been trying to keep me away from here, then you have been doing a very good job of trying to keep me away from Radio 1. Otherwise, I'm happy that you finally done a good thing of inviting me.
It's not intended. I just wanted to invite you for a specific area where you are an expert.
No, I've been wondering, maybe I did something wrong to you, and so that Sempara can bring us together.
But I know you're a regular listener. You know, this one of our listeners who keeps sending messages.
Yeah, and I do.
But I've had one time, I got an emissary who told me to tell the public that it's not actually you. It's somebody else who actually shares a name like you.
Yeah, there's someone else. My name is unique. I don't know. We need to find out who this person is. But I'm so happy. I want to thank Radio 1. Good job you do. Even your sister station, Akawazi Kubiri. Through the years, I've been listening to Radio 1. Great songs, great memories. Before Sempara was born, I think, and he grew. You guys have grown, Kenneth, from a starter to now a big name and a celebrity.
Which big name?
So you personify the growth and evolution of the media through the years, thanks to the policy of opening up and liberalizing. So we are happy to create big stars like you.
I thought you were going to say when NRM came in 1986.
Yeah, when the fundamental change was ushered in and liberalization, including the media. So thank you so much, Kenneth. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, well, you partly did my job of introducing my second guest, Mr. Robert Sempala, Executive Director, Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda. Good evening, Robert. Thank you very much for joining us.
Good evening, Kenny, and the listeners. I am so happy to be here. Also to meet my friend Moses Watasa for a very long time, and we've come a long way, and so being in studios with him just brings home a discussion that is really well focused, because he's one of those key voices that I really appreciate and comprehend these issues of press freedom and partial elections, because he's been in both Electoral Commission now ICT. So I'm happy to be here, but most importantly, he's an elephant like me and yourself. So we have 3 elephants in this room.
I hope this table. I hope this table will survive. All right, gentlemen, let's kick off this discussion, and I want to begin with you, Robert, because your organization from time to time monitors, documents, but also reports about issues to do with the media freedom. We are entering into a political season. Already we have a situation in Kawempe, and there was an incident. I saw you talking about it. But from time to time, we normally have these situations. Other people are preparing to contest. We are preparing to cover the elections. Are there any particular issues that you have seen that actually, should knock into our heads and probably keep us thinking about what is likely to happen?
Yeah, what is for a fact is that media is not only a medium of exchange or dissemination of information, but it's a key informant during elections, because you know that many people cannot be in one place and attend each and every rally. Politicians make promises and don't follow through. The media is the only vehicle that can drive all these issues back to the commonest understanding of an ordinary voter in Uganda, even to keep politicians in check, or to see how far they've gone ahead with their implementation of manifestos and promises. So it's a very key pillar of democracy, and that is under a freedom of expression. In this special regard, we're looking at what the role that media plays in an election, being a voice to the voiceless, and also being everywhere for the people, trying to break down complex issues for the understanding of everyone, and they are a key, also a fourth state of government. In this, we know that their role can never be more emphasized than during elections and even post-elections. What we normally do is to make sure that there is space for everyone. We remember we came out of a scientific election which was entirely driven through the media, both the legacy media and the new media. Everyone was able to really understand and follow through their candidates based on media, because we had COVID then, and so would not convene in our multitudes. All we would do was to follow the media, and that best brought out the importance of the media in an election. So we now know that now that we're turning towards an active electoral process, which certainly is already undergoing, because the Electoral Commission released this roadmap way back. So we're into its implementation. The media is at it again. You just made mention of the ugly incident that happened during the nominations for the Kawempe by-elections, where one of our colleagues, Ibra, Miracle, was brutally attacked and is bedridden in Zambia, undergoing treatment. So far, 2 surgeries have happened. He had his bones cracked, and his eye as well. He is awaiting another surgery this week, and is only a representation of what is likely to happen. We do not know why, but as a media rights organization, we have tried our best to prepare the journalists for even a very rough tide. So when you're swimming against a very rough and high tide, you do not swim normally. If everyone sees you swimming in the same way, they know you're going to vanish. So journalists are learning how to navigate around such a very difficult environment. And it's very important now that we engage as a country on the position of the journalists. Why do they even fall victims in a civic election, which is supposed to be very peaceful, where leaders are supposed to be ushered into office, and the media is in itself not an end user, but a medium? Why must you victimize a medium that transmits information?
All right. Stay with you a little bit. Each time there's this kind of situations, I've seen you issue reports, and sometimes you tell us security agency A, B, C, D is culpable for beating up journalists and things like that. And there have been engagements about these issues. Have we been able to settle that issue? Are we likely not to see security agencies going after journalists? Police, it was police now. Now we are talking about another outfit, JAT. I don't know. What kind of engagements have you had with the security agencies? What are they saying?
Our work is always work in progress. We have never stopped. We learn from experiences. Since we are a media rights organization, we do a lot of documentation, and produce reports thematically, but more so annually. The Press Freedom Index, which showcases the state of press freedom, and it categorically brings out the perpetrators from time to time. It certainly has been the security forces, especially the police. So we have come out to engage them. Of course, engaging them sometimes might seem like it's a new thing to them, that they do not know what is supposed to be done, that they are ill-informed about the role of the media. But we want to believe that they know what it is that they're supposed to do. They know their custodial role in an election, on how to safeguard the journalists in the line of duty. But I think something enters into their head when it comes to election times. And they, swam up journalists, beat them up, just like other politicians. You saw what happened in Kawempe. It was not only journalists being beaten, chased after, and beaten. So there is a very big problem that we need to address squarely as a people in trying to domesticate an election, make it as peaceful and calm as humanly possible. For us now, for the journalists, we've of course built capacities of journalists in terms of physical and digital security. We've done our best combing the whole country in terms of that. We have gone to court to challenge cases where the perpetrators are known, even where they're not known. We still have done work around there. But we have also tried our best to bring on board the owners of these media houses, who are a very critical voice in trying to shape course of events. And the political class also has a very big role to play, but it has been for me a bit hard to engage them, because at some point they think that the media is against them and that they are also against the media, and that remains a very huge challenge. You have had many statements from leaders in the political class, in the military, in the security, that are really thumping their chests, preparing to confront the journalists, even without any remorse. So we cannot say all is set, but it's been work in progress. Journalists are well aware of their rights. Journalists are well aware of how to safeguard themselves under normal circumstances, but even under extraordinary circumstances. But most importantly, journalists are aware of how to seek for justice and redress in case things have gone wrong.
All right. Let's hear from Commissioner Watasa. When you sit up there in the ministry and look at the media landscape in the country, you look at the politics and how they are shaping up, and these skirmishes that occur from time to time, what comes into your mind? What perspective would you give us?
Yeah, first of all, Kenneth, for us, it's actually a good thing to note how the media has grown in this country. I was doing some study in terms of numbers and vibrancy. As much as what Ndugu Sempala is saying is of concern to us, but the media in Uganda is more vibrant actually than and active than in any other part in this region of ours, Kenneth. We can maybe in future have a separate debate on that. Media has grown phenomenally. The legacy media, radio, I was checking, I will share with you, Kenneth, a recent report by UCC. Radios now, we have more than 330. Television, more than 40. Now, also the expansion of internet connectivity around the country. You remember last year in November, the president was launching phase 5 of the backbone infrastructure project. And that one's going to take us to connect the whole country in Uganda, the whole country, Karamoja, West Nile, northern Uganda, within the next 3 or 4 years or so. So that means that the potential for growth is also still there as the connectivity expands and as the media converges. I think as we are here, we're also online because I have relatives outside Uganda who listen to your station and the others. So in terms of growth and expansion, it has been phenomenal. Of course, it's creditable to where we started from. This government liberalized the media.
And the willingness of the private sector to invest. Let's not forget that.
No, actually they move in tandem because if you are expanding and liberalizing the economy, then naturally you liberalize the media to support the expansion. So in its good wisdom, this government decided that let's open up the media as well. That was in the early 1990s. But you guys are younger than me. You remember in the past, for when governments were changing a lot, the fight was also usually on Radio Uganda, because that's where the place where
You'll go to announce.
and you know. But now, my goodness, it's a huge explosion. So that's good, but there are also other issues like the quality itself. In terms of expansion, the numbers, yes, but professionalism, there are issues there. In fact, there's even the issue of sustainability itself. Probably, Robert, we also need to talk about this. If you have an economy like ours, can it support 338 radio stations? Possibly not. Sometimes I do advertising myself. You break a budget and until it doesn't actually make sense, because these platforms are just too many.
All right.
Online, then you tie in with the elections. Good enough. I've worked in elections before. Yeah, I'm an old boy of the Electoral Commission, or an old man, because now I've also grown older. Elections is a process, and I'm happy. I saw Radio 1, you are working with the EC on update of the register. It's a process with the various activities on the roadmap building up to polling, which in this case probably will be in January, either maybe late Jan or early Feb, in between there. But what I also learned from being involved in elections is that elections, people invest a lot, emotionally but also materially. I think we've seen reports, Robert, where that there are people who invest up to, is it $1 billion to stand as a member of parliament? So how then do you manage a process where you have invested $1 billion, because it becomes like a do or die, And all this then, Kenneth, has a bearing on reporters, you know, how if I've invested that, probably I will not stand a negative story filed by Robert, because then I see Robert as my enemy, because they have invested $1 billion. I have to win the election by hook or crook, so that hopefully, maybe through my salary or through other things, they know better I'm not a member of parliament. So the stakes can be very high, and naturally, journalists find themselves trapped in this. There are people, Robert, you know, this is a sector you know well, rather events you know well, who, if I give Kenneth a lift and I'm a candidate, I don't know how he's going to cover other candidates, but we also know our media, they are not as doing well as Kenneth here, but, you know, generally they are not doing well, Then there are people who use them to malign, you know, other candidates, and you know, because you are standing, Sempara is standing against me. I hire Kenneth. Kenneth, I'm using you figuratively to spread a false, but sometimes extremely damaging story. So the media find themselves trapped in a highly charged, but also heated and potentially explosive environment. Because, like I've said, people have invested heavily. It's a do or die, va piteo, like you say in Uganda. Then, of course, we are not a perfect society, and we are deeply concerned about cases where individuals from security agencies beat up journalists, like the one in Kawempe. I did talk to the communication team of police. Also, I found Felix Klaiji, even the EC. We are trying to understand what could have caused this. Certainly, these people were not sent officially, that when you see a journalist, beat them. But there are individuals, I think, who are either overzealous or they could be outrightly bad apples. Because remember that even security personnel are drawn from the same society, where we draw journalists, where we draw people from civil society. It's not a perfect society. But for me, I would like the country to take comfort. Not all is lost. Because as you know, Kenneth, even the president himself has written about this. So what we need, in my view, for example, through our ministry, we have what we call the Uganda Media Sector Working Group, where we sometimes invite people from security. That group has the ministry on our side, but also has regulators like UCC, the Media Council, and chief editors, CEOs of even NAB, National Association of Broadcasters, is involved in that. The Editors Guild of Uganda, where we look at some of these issues critically. I am also aware there's a conversation going on where government is mooting to set up a a standing committee of cabinet on issues to do with media, and that committee is going to have representation from the Ministry for Security as well as Internal Affairs. So one of the issues of concern is that how do we protect journalists? But of course, it goes beyond just this. For example, we have journalists, Robert, as you know, you are their advocate. You find they don't have even any proper tags, some of them. Of course, there are those who have been in tags and have also been assaulted. That is regrettable. And I believe we should go to the bottom of this and hold some of these perpetrators accountable, because journalism is not a crime, Kenneth? I see you are looking at me closely.
Because I wanted to give you an example.
It's not a crime.
This journalist from
Yes,
Top TV, well branded, clearly identifiable as a journalist, putting on a gadget that shows press or clearly, but he's still battered. Some people actually saying journalists are being targeted by security so that they cannot report, especially when they are found in activities of the opposition.
As far as I know, Kenneth, and I don't want to say I'm privileged. I'm honored to serve in the job that I do. I relate with the various people in this government at various levels. I've also been privileged sometimes to interact with His Excellency the President. There's no one who officially sends out people to beat a journalist or to beat any other people for that matter.
That has always been the point.
But from my understanding of
the government official will tell you that it's not the policy of government.
No, absolutely
but
not.
Then we don't see any action.
Because we are not crazy. We are not crazy, Kenneth. But we also have laws in this country. We've done work with, for example, the Electoral Commission themselves, the Human Rights Commission. As you know, we've had these workshops where we train even people from security on issues of human rights, because even journalists have rights. They are human beings before they are, Actually, even my friend here, we've done work with him. So for me, I want people of this country to keep the faith, but to not to lose hope in their country, because we are Christians. I think the three of us here. Where there's goodwill, you can always find a way. This is a work in progress, because these people keep joining from all sorts of backgrounds, Kenneth and Robert. So my appeal to the country and the people listening to us is that let's keep the faith. The will is there, but there are people who beat the sieve, some bad apples, and end up in these. Even in ministries, you had cases of corruption. You have had cases of even ministries out there. But also even in the media itself, maybe one time we should shed a spotlight on this. Even the media has some bad apples. They are quacks, they are extortionists. So for me, what we need is a firm commitment. The President has shown us the way. There's a time he wrote, I think, 5 pages. I read over and over. He guided. He spoke about the media. He wrote about the media, but he also wrote about other people. And I think we have also seen, although there are not very many, but we have seen cases where the police, I think, have sanctioned a few officers of their own. So we want to see cases of sanctioning going a bit deeper, because these officers need to know that they also owe a responsibility to the institutions they serve, the uniform they wear, but also the country and the public at large. Because Uganda has changed a lot. Us who grew up before in the past, there's a time when I was running from Bulambuli from where I come from to the mountains. A soldier was telling us that, but you people, I don't want to waste many bullets on you. Just line up, so I save them and I use one. So we have moved a lot as a country, but we still have work to do. So for me, as someone who interacts in those levels, I can tell the country that the commitment is there. These individuals, either they have personal issues or some of them are overzealous. I think we also need to talk to them and interrogate the thinking behind. For example, that bad beating of a journalist. I looked at the journalists, and you would think maybe were they rivals of I don't know what.
All right.
But we need to dig deeper and interrogate them and work together as a country
Right.
with you, Robert, and and the Omunene, Kenneth, because this is an area you know well,
Spectrum
Kenneth.
on Radio 1 FM 90. Let's go for a break now. When we return, there have been some current developments within the media, including a recent meeting where a CDF actually summoned media managers into a meeting, and there's an issue concerning how the media is covering political events and also allowing apparently certain people to make some statements, and they are thinking that it could lead us into chaos. We want to look at that, and wherever there is such a thing, they normally remind us about a radio station in Rwanda called Radio Milcolin. And what it did apparently to do what? To pump up the genocide that's happened in Rwanda.
In 1994.
But have we reached that stage as the media in Uganda? Let's go for a break now. When we return, we'll look at that issue in detail. Thank you so much for staying with us on Spectrum, live on Radio 1 FM 90. Today we are looking at media and elections in Uganda. What are the challenges and opportunities going forward? My guest, Mr. Moses Watasa, Commissioner, Communication and Dissemination, Minister of ICT, Information and National Guidance, and Mr. Robert Sempala, Executive Director, Human Rights Network for Journalists, Uganda. My name is Kenneth Anderson Lukwago, your host. Now, gentlemen, before we went for a break, I did mention something that happened recently, where the Chief of Defense Forces, using his X handle, did summon members of the media in ownership and those who actually managed to go for a meeting. And apparently one of the key resolutions from that meeting is to have media managers to go for a training in Kyankwanzi to understand better the role of the media. Apparently, if that is not done, there are some media houses that are likely to plunge this country into a crisis. Just like I mentioned, that farmers radio station from Rwanda, Radio Milcolin, which was linked to the genocide. But the question would be, Mr. Sempala, have we reached that level? Do we need that kind of intervention from the security forces to have that kind of training?
Thank you, Kenneth. I'm going to really address that squarely, but just give me 1 minute to respond to Commissioner Watasa's array of our fears about the individuality of the perpetrators of violence against journalists and other people. If this is not a sanctioned attack on journalists and others, then what tangible action does government take? Because it happened last week. To date, we do not know who beat up the journalists. We've not known of any accountability mechanisms that are happening, to the effect that no one in government has even called these journalists or even gone to, to pay them a visit to say, government is watching over, we're taking action. So I think for me, it doesn't serve a good purpose.
I saw Balam saying that they were taking over the medical bills.
He did say that, but to date, not even one of his assistants or anyone has gone to the hospital to influence course of events, not even to say we are sorry. So we, as the civil society, like Human Rights Network for Journalists Uganda, we are really struggling with these bills. We've been in touch with the hospital to get bills. They're, skyrocketing by the day because of these surgeries. And the journalists are really wondering what became of the pronouncement.
I know there's also a fundraiser going on.
Yes, journalists are individually
collecting money
towards
this treatment.
So it's a very pathetic state to be in after such. But to go back to the patriotism engagements that we are foreseeing coming all through, it's one thing that you saw coming, because there's been already statements, attacking the media for not being patriotic. But I know for a fact that not even when all the media managers go to Chankwanzi or to change their perceptions on how to do work, because what media wants to date now is not going to Chankwanzi, is improving the operating environment, is to shed an environment that will endear every journalist and media manager to the activities of government. Say, if journalists are poorly paid, what are you doing about it? If journalists are beaten and there is widely spread impunity, what are you doing about it? If journalists are lacking in terms of ethics and professionalism, what are you doing about that? What systems are you putting in place? If now the regulation is more of a controlling effect than a facilitating effect, what are you doing about it? I think there is a return of so many things to attend to before you bring in patriotism and taking people to Chankwanzi. Now, just imagine where all students that would be going to government universities were taken to Chankwanzi. They would come back and vote for opposition student leaders in all these universities. What became of that? So it means you can even drag them to Chankwanzi. It would be like a horse. You drag it to a water, but you won't force it to drink the water. They will look at you and be wondering if you have really computerized their problems so well. Yeah, taking them to that place. And so what comes after, supposing somebody has gone to Chankwanzi, they come back, waving their certificate of completion, and how does that even reflect in how people perceive public issues, accountability, exposing the corrupt and many things?
Media evolves and situations also evolve. Probably there are certain things that journalists don't know. Responsible journalism, reporting but keeping at the back of your mind the importance of a country. We've had examples where people tell us, do you think all the violence that happens in the US is portrayed on CNN? They tell you, no, it doesn't happen. You only see tidbits of things here and there. So maybe that's the kind of knowledge they want to pass on. Because from what I saw, this particular training is being linked to security of the country.
And bringing this country into chaos. It's not true that the managers would go to the field to work, certainly not. It's not true that the managers would be editing the stories, certainly not. If anything, you need to engage with the reporters, the editors, the people who are in the kitchen cooking these stories to come out the way they are. But before you even do that, you need to really listen to them exhaustively to understand if amongst their problems that if anything, they're not patriotic, what it is that is, pushing them away from being patriotic. So I think that it's a brilliant idea, but wrongly timed and coming to people who are not prepared for it. It would certainly, for me, escalate even the situation. Because the media managers would be telling you that the taxes are strangulating their businesses. How are you attending to that? So if you teach them patriotism, are they going to change in any way? If they're telling you that, the regular licenses are extremely expensive for them to sustain, even to sustain media houses as a business, how are you attending to that? So for me, it is more than telling these people that be patriotic. And how else are you going to teach them in Chankwanzi? Is it media related? Are you going to push them to be politicians? How is it even a crime, Kenneth, for the media to balance their stories and give this side in the government a hearing, give this side in the opposition a hearing? How is that even a problem that would require us to devote resources to take, say, the media manager of Radio 1 to Chankwanzi for a couple of days and then come back and do what exactly? So for me, there are many lingering questions around this thing, but I'm sure that the proponents of it will be facing a huge task to explain and adhere to the managers.
Commissioner Watasa, I don't know if you were part of this meeting. If you were not, but at least you know exactly what transpired. Why was this meeting very crucial? And this particular training that is being talked about, some people are considering it as an attempt to muzzle, because when you take the managers for this kind of training, they come back and tell the workers in a particular media house, you are not allowed to do this and this and this. Stop doing this.
Yeah, thanks again, Ken. Ken, first of all, maybe we should talk more about NALI in maybe separate forum, maybe programs like this. NALI is a National Leadership Institute. I have been there. I've done several courses there. When I've been there, no one has taught me about who to vote or who to vote against. What happened is in NALI is that we look at leadership, the economy of Uganda. What is its structure? How has it been changing over the years? The key policy priorities in the country. What are we doing now? For example, now the president is talking about 4 pillars of wealth creation: ICT, commercial agriculture, industry, and the services. So we look at this, and even you look at tax structures for the country. Our tax to GDP ratio is still a bit low compared to other countries in the region. How do we grow this? And so the media becomes critical in this, because from where we started, we said the media informs, educates, but also interprets complex things. Recently, remember we had the issue of IFRIS, where Some traders were thinking if this is a tax, it is not a tax. And this is an area where we can work with the media to sensitize the public. Because we are looking at expanding our tax base so that we collect more money. And when we do that, the government is able to offer better services and also to rely less on foreign source of money. For example, we are aware now what is happening in the USA. Programs like USAID are frozen, and that means apart from being more frugal, we need to explore alternative internal sources of revenue. So Nali is really teaching our people to appreciate even the history of the country. What are the events that led us to independence? Why did we go through so many wars after independence? What did we learn? And what do we need to avoid to build a more stable, in a sustainable, a stable and secure country? Because you know that without security, nothing really works. And which brings me to the media, because we also said the media shapes opinion, the media is fora for discussion. Media also sets agenda. So if media is a part of the development trajectory of the country, it works better. And that's why we talk about the whole concept of development communication, which is integral with especially the traditional functions of the media. So it's not that when the media go to Nali, they're going to teach them who to vote. No. And Kenneth, I'm actually encouraging you to go, so that when you come back, you can add on to my voice to explain to a skeptical Robert Sempara
I'm not a media manager.
that it was very good in Nali. But also there's a thin line between agenda setting and influencing public perceptions and security. I have a feeling that maybe the CDF, there could be information he has picked because he consumes the intelligence, which I don't, which probably none of us does. But there's always a timing for certain things to happen. So I think let's give him the benefit of doubt, but see what comes out. My ministry was represented in the meeting. I was there. It was a good meeting. It was we had it at UCC, which is a regulator, an agency under the Ministry of ICT and National Guidance. They are doing a good job. Honorable Nyombitembo and the rest of the team. Everyone means well, but Robert Sempara is usually suspicious.
All right.
But by the time you come back from Nali, Kenneth Lukwago, I'm sure you'll be able to have Robert Sempara appreciate that this is a leadership institute. Political economy, the history of the country, the structure of the economy, how do we mobilize more resources, how do we build leaders for now and for the future, including those from probably civil society like yourself, Robert. So you hopefully continue doing the good job I think you are doing right now.
Staying with you a little bit, let's go into a very interesting area, the issue of social media.
Yes.
And now we have different platforms. I was just checking my phone here, and I saw there's a lady who has been arrested from Bushenyi, who has apparently been uttering certain things using her TikTok account. Police has arrested her that apparently she has been abusing the CDF and the president. And there are so many concerns around the muzzling of social media spaces. As we talk now, it's not easy to access Facebook. There are fears each time there is an election, the internet will be touched. And you don't have that accessibility. Some people want to use the internet to communicate, maybe tally results and share, including the political parties that are genuinely involved in the process. Are we likely to see that situation again as we go for 2026?
First of all, maybe about Facebook. I'm aware, Kenneth and Robert, we've had conversations, including with Facebook themselves, and for the good of the country, I am sure that Facebook is going to be reopened soon. Of course, we are aware that there are people like Robert using it via VPN. But you see, Facebook is also
surprisingly, we are seeing even government officials and government entities.
No, but more seriously, Facebook is used also for small businesses. I bought this watch. Young people, I bought it online. There are young people who cannot afford to pay rent on places like Mkwana Ked. So we are aware that ICT, including fora like Facebook, are also for small businesses to thrive, which builds the economy and also goes back to the expanding the tax base that I'm doing, but also creating jobs, as the president says. So we have had the interfaces at various levels, and I think in the not so distant future, Facebook is going to be opened officially so that you use it without going through VPN like Sempala here.
Moses says it.
Now,
it looks like it. It is like Facebook that is connected to Uganda.
No. And it touches on what Robert just said, that there's a lady who has been arrested. Of course, when you're in that space, the digital space, the thing with the digital space is that it is open. When we're on air here, where there is gatekeeping now, like on this program, rather, Kenneth, you can cut me off if I say things that fall below professional standards, even morality and legal issues. But social media is an open space. So it's sometimes actually it degenerates to more or less the level of a jungle. So users need to know that other people have rights. That you have right to express yourself in that space doesn't mean that you infringe on the right of Kenneth or Robert Sempara. So and the president and the CDF are also human beings before they hold the positions that they do. I think people might be saying, but could it be that they are being arrested because we have a CDF and the president? No, even Sempara. Next time, if you malign Sempara, you're also a candidate to be arrested. If you malign Kenneth Lukwago, you should also be a candidate for. Because these rights also go with responsibilities. The problem in Uganda sometimes is that people think rights are absolute and they have no responsibilities. But there are also issues of the law.
All right.
So let's be in those spaces, but use the platforms in a responsible way, but also in accordance with the laws of the country.
Robert, any issue on the internet freedom?
Yeah, we are grappling with how to contend with the fact that when it is around election time, the internet goes off. We know, like day falls night, that is going to happen. I would like the Watasas to surprise us and keep it.
So Robert is now becoming a prophet, eh?
No, it has happened in the previous elections. Now the Facebook is completely off since January 2021. You know, it's almost 5 years down the road. So it's very hard to justify the fact that we have reliable connectivity during that time. Yet connectivity plays a very important role. I used to work with an election observation group here, and we used to gather a lot of information from different contacts in the field through this internet connectivity. But once it goes off, you completely can't perform your roles. You can't transmit money to people to travel. You could literally have, at a total, closed down. So I think it's more than what we could even assume here, the importance of being connected during that time, even for communication purposes. But how we are handling social media for me is more suffocating than, entertaining, even dissent. Because you're looking at Moses not being happy with what I am saying about you, and you have a right to reply. You can even go to court at a very personal level, which is very okay, and make it so formal, like you have said. It's very hard to even debate. For me, you can debate with Moses. Moses is progressive in his approach. He's a very upright man, but he's trying to talk about something that is, for me, too delicate, about the justification to switch off these platforms. I think we need to civically awaken Ugandans on how to progressively use them, how to make them more profitable, how to engage gainfully with these different social media platforms. Because if they learn on the job, expect them to do it their own way. There should be a deliberate effort by the government to make sure that all Ugandans can make the best of these platforms. I would be part of a campaign of that nature, other than trying to switch it off just. It doesn't even make people learn how to use it if you just switch it off. The day Facebook will come back, you'll see how people will be excited and posting every sort of thing. So if you keep it on, but progressively identify the critical voices that can tell people that this is positive, we can do this, this is negative for our country. I think we don't need to fear many people that they don't have the best interest of this country. It appears like...
we are not cowards, Robert. Yeah, that's why I'm here to face you. Sometimes you are bad and mean to me, but I'm here to face you and debate with you.
We have comments coming in.
So you can see we're available to
I'll begin with Andrew. Andrew writes in and says, the word fundamental change shouldn't be used in that studio. We are back to square one. The regime learned and forgot it all. Case in point, Kawempe by-elections is full-blown ulcer now. The state machinery is beyond the ceiling. That's a comment from Andrew. Then we have a comment from Orlando, who writes in and says, journalism is not a crime. The security forces are not supposed to be partisan. It seems like the government is now hiring the M23 rebels, dress them in jet uniforms, and give them the leeway to terrorize citizens. No wonder they cover their faces. These are terrorists. This brutality must stop. Then we have another comment coming in from Twine Charles, who writes and says, I strongly condemn the recent violent attacks on media personnel as utterly reprehensible and a blatant assault on democracy and free expression. These cowardly acts aim to silence truth and accountability, but will only strengthen journalists' resolve. I must emphasize, however, without prejudice, that these attacks are not, as some have falsely claimed, state-planned or sanctioned. They are instead the work of rogue individuals or groups who seek to undermine our democratic values. To journalists, I urge you to exercise extreme caution and prioritize your safety above all else. No story, no matter how big or explosive, is worth risking your life for. Your lives are precious, and your families, friends, and colleagues need you. That's a comment from Twine. Then we have another comment from Drani Radio 1. What is media patriotism? Is it hiding the terrorism of the state against its own citizens? Well, those are some of the comments that we have received as feedback from the listeners, and I want to begin with you, Moses, if you can respond to some of these, but also make your closing remarks.
Okay, Kenneth, first of all, the government doesn't enjoy, let's say, closing the internet, because we, for example, what people may not know, our payments are online. If the internet is switched off, people are not getting their salaries, we are not paying suppliers. So we are, even our Ministry of ICT and National Guidance is promoting e-services, e-commerce, and if people are not doing business, we are losing revenue. So it's not in our interest to actually close the internet or any of these platforms for that matter. Where that happens, it's normally temporary and to address certain risks. Like I said, the president consumes the intelligence, which I don't. And I think even the CDF also consumes the intelligence, which I'm not privy to. But like I said earlier, we need to have faith in these offices and our country at large. It's regrettable, like I said, what happened in Kawempe. I'm aware that there's a probe going on. I hope it's done quickly so that whoever was responsible for especially this bad beating of a journalist who is just doing his job, I think that should be resolved and hopefully through further engagements with the EC, the likes of the Human Rights Commission and security agencies, hopefully the next phases of the general elections are held in a good environment, which is also good for the media to do their job. We are available to work with the EC and other partners, even yourself, Robert. I know you are doing commendable work. So about radio, we don't want a radio news Collins here, because we said earlier that radio, or rather media, shapes opinion, not just radio. So in that case, you remember what happened. You guys are younger than me, but by that time I was an adult. I was coming out of the university. If people start using images like let's fumigate cockroaches, and you are talking about human beings, Kenneth, you may not know just how much power you have by sitting behind this mic that you are sitting behind. You are talking to probably 3 million people right now, or even more, within and out of the country. So media is that powerful. So what we are saying is that let's use responsibly the platforms, but also let's work with the other entities, including security, to ensure that media builds rather than breaking our country. Because there's that adage that media can make or break. I and the government of Uganda want to see a media that builds this country. That is why, in the first place, we opened up and liberalized so that the media can grow and thrive. These bad apples who are giving us, both our security agencies and government at large, a bad image, there's a commitment to deal with them. So let's continue working together so that the media, even during elections come and go. In Uganda, we have elections every 5 years. So this country is bigger than an election. Of course, elections are important in the democracy and governance trajectory of the country, but it's not the beginning and the end of this country. So as we go for elections, let's work together. The media, our ministry is available. Honorable Yomunsi always tells you people, Kenneth, you have been there, that our doors are open. In fact, he says we have no doors; they were blacked out.
All right.
So anytime we can have a conversation.
Kamugo
Yourself
Fred
and
Keta,
yeah.
Kamugo Fred Keta, listening in from Kira municipality, says, my comment about the journalists who are supposed to forcefully be taken for training, whereas the intention may be good, but the approach is suspect. After thumping journalists who were covering the nominations for by-elections by the security agencies in Kawempe, and no one is assuming responsibility, till now the journalists have a reason to worry. We have another comment. First, at first, those were mere tweets from the CDF. Now we know those are real tweets. CDF has threatened people's life using his social media spaces, and nothing has been done about him. That's a comment from Orlando there. Let's hear from you, Sempala. Quick your response and also your closing remarks.
Yeah, thank you very much. Feedback from the audience certainly shows that the confidence levels in this undertaking are still extremely low. We hope that there are more voices to back it up, to explain it better for everyone to understand that it's not ill-intentioned to muzzle the media. That's extremely important. Two, I'm happy that I am speaking with a colleague from the Ministry of ICT. Actually, the media falls under this ministry. Sometimes I am wondering why they are mysteriously and suspiciously silent about issues that really journalists are grappling with, in terms of, say, the beatings, in terms of calling for action against the perpetrators, in terms of even going to court with us to pursue justice for the journalists. I think we should all be seen pushing in the same direction, because we are in the same boat. If it is really on the water sailing, then we are all good. If it is going down, certainly we know that all is not well with all of us. Lastly, journalists certainly are not above the law. I must emphasize that. So we should exercise due diligence and observe the law, be professional and ethical, especially while we're going into elections. It's extremely a very sensitive area, which we really need to engage in gainfully. Thank you very much and have a good night.
But Kenneth, you should have allowed me to close. But
I gave you